Well, I am so excited that you guys get to hear from a new friend of mine. His name is Gary, and it hasn't been as often as I would have liked to bring cancer thrivers and warriors onto the show. It was my goal from the beginning to be able to share more of your stories and of hope and healing and talk to those of you who have figured out a way to thrive through a diagnosis and really be transparent about your healing journey. And so Gary and I were connected through a mutual friend, Jessie Lee, who we just talked a moment ago before we hit record that this is an honor to carry on her legacy of new friendship and in the midst of even something like cancer. So I'm so thankful for this connection. I'm thankful for you guys to hear from Gary. And Gary, thank you for being willing to be on the show and share with our audience.
Absolutely, it's an honor, and like you said, let's do honor to Jesse and share the good news of some hope and inspiration of how we can fight this ugly disease a little more efficiently.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started following you not too long ago, and I've picked up bits and pieces of your story. And I think what has inspired me the most is, again, what you just said, your willingness to just show up and give people hope in the midst of your own diagnosis and what you've been dealing with. And so I would love you to just kind of share with us who you are, when your cancer journey started, and how you're thriving now and the things you're doing. I would love to just give everybody a background of who Gary is and why he's such an amazing contribution to this world.
Oh, thank you. That's so sweet, and I appreciate this opportunity to share my story. And it's been 6 years since my diagnosis, but my diagnosis started long before that, and I'll expose what I mean by that into this conversation. But it was in November or so when I was asleep one night and woke up to go to the bathroom, and I peed in the toilet and I didn't flush it. The next morning, my wife woke up and found a hint of blood in the toilet. And it wasn't her. So she called me up while I was at work and said, "Hey, I think you're peeing blood. You should get that checked out." I'm colorblind. And this is why I started the story this way, because I'm an advocate for colorblind people to get your poop checked. I was pooping and peeing blood for God knows how long. And I had no idea because it wasn't standard practice to have my wife going and poking her head in the toilet, right? So I missed what could have been the clear sign of what was going on inside of me. But I didn't know at that time, so it led to a series of tests over about a month. And 3 days before Christmas in 2017 is when I had a colonoscopy, and they discovered a 10.5 centimeter tumor in my colon and rectum area down there. And then another one that was about half the size up higher in the colon. And my doctor, once I had come out of the anesthesia, saw my family sitting there, and my wife was crying, and I just knew it was bad news. And the doctor proceeded to tell me that he found cancer, and that it was for sure stage 1 colorectal cancer, but that he had suspicion that it had advanced. So he suggested a CT, and that's where we found 19 lymph nodes and 7 tumors in my liver, and they called it stage 4 cancer, right? And so at that time of diagnosis, I was actually at a restaurant. We did the CT scan. We were awaiting the results from a radiologist to look at it. The medical oncologist that was on staff called me and shared the news that it was stage 4 colorectal cancer. And I remember looking at my family in the restaurant through the mirror. I was out in the parking lot, and I just broke down crying. I was a mess. I was so scared. The doctor was kind of negligent in a way, because she had mentioned that I probably only had about 6 months of life left in me with this diagnosis. And so things were looking really grim. And I had a 10-year-old daughter at the time and 41 years old. And I'm like, how could this happen to me? And then I started looking back through my life, and I'm like, oh, that's probably why. And so anyway, I got through the holidays and started my Western medicine treatment in January of 2018. Found my way to City of Hope. City of Hope's been amazing. They got an amazing team of doctors. Their staff there is incredible. Like, their bedside manner is so good. They put so much love into what they do at this facility, and so I'm so grateful for my experience there. I still get monitored by my team there from time to time. So I proceeded with the standard of care approach, right? And so I did 46 rounds of chemotherapy. I've done 30 rounds of radiation. I've had major surgeries. My first surgery was 11 hours with 7 surgeons I had working on me at one time. They took my colon and rectum and left me with a colostomy bag for the rest of my life. So I have that story. And they took half my liver and my gallbladder and sewed me back up and sent me home and did more chemo, and that was my first remission. And I've seen multiple remissions since then, in and out of chemotherapy and different things. And recovery was very difficult through that process. And so I've been on this journey, and along in this journey of Western medicine and getting led in that way. And again, out of respect to my doctors, this is all that they know. They're conditioned and taught a certain way of healing, and it's only through what we call standard of care in this country, and so that's all they have access to. So when I started bringing my doctor ideas of like, hey, what do you think about this alkaline water stuff, or whatever, he was like, yeah, don't waste your money on that. Just do tap water and baking soda, or tap water and lemon, and you'll be just fine. It'll be the same thing. And what about cannabis? And I heard, oh yeah, you might want to try that, but you got to find somebody that you can trust, and blah 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 blah. And nutrition was the whole story that I hear across the country with most people that I work with, is that you're gonna be nauseous, you're not gonna have much of an appetite, so just eat whatever you want. Try and eat cleaner, eat better, but it's not really like clear and defined of what that means. It's just eat what you want. And you teach somebody to eat what you want, and that person is addicted to food, which I
Yeah.
was almost 300 pounds at the time of my diagnosis, addicted to all kinds of bad food and alcohol and bad drinks, and just a horrible lifestyle. Standard American lifestyle, really. I mean, it wasn't in a gluttonous way. It was just me being like everybody else, like just going through the drive-throughs, going through the grocery store, and just living life. So I started this journey with Western medicine, and I had a friend that at the beginning I decided to share my story online in hopes to give one person some hope that, hey, let's do this together. Maybe my story can transcend and help somebody along the way. So I started sharing my journey, and an old friend reached out and he said, hey, I want to bring you this alkaline water. And I was like, cool. I learned more. I know I need to drink more water. At that point, my story was there was plenty of water in beer, so it's fine with me. But I knew that I needed to have a better approach to how I'm getting my water in my body. So alkaline water seemed like a good start, and that's what I did. So my friend was bringing me the 5 gallons of this alkaline water to my doorstep every day, every week for like 4 months. This first 4 months, I was going through chemo. I had taken on 8 rounds. If you go through chemo, you understand that every round it intensifies and it gets a little worse because chemo just doesn't exit your body, so it's in there and it compounds and it gets harder to deal with. But I was losing weight, I was feeling good, and I was losing weight the right way because I was making adjustments, I was trying to move differently, I was getting some exercise and trying to lose weight because I was almost 300 pounds and the disease was living in all that filth that was in my body. So I was trying to do it, and it was going well. And then 4 months go by and that guy stops bringing me the water. So I started drinking other alkaline waters from the stores. I was drinking the bottled stuff. I was going to the alkaline water store in the community and getting my own 5 gallon jug of that stuff. And I did that for about a month and a half. And during this month and a half, I noticed some considerable changes. And it wasn't good. I was losing my energy. The toxicity levels were rising through the roof. And I was just like, I was going to work as much as I could, and then I'd come home and just want to sleep. And I was feeling like a cancer patient, and I was at the time, so I was like, this is what cancer's all about. I'm just going to have to deal with it. Hopefully we can make it through the other side. Then my buddy showed up again with more of that alkaline water that he was bringing me. And I'll tell you this, within 24 hours, I drank about a gallon of that special alkaline water, and I had all my energy back. Every stitch of it. And it blew my mind. And I was like, okay, what is this water and why is it so effective? And so I went on this journey of discovering what that is. It's living water, and it's made with a machine that you can have for your home, all that stuff. If anybody's watching this, they want to learn more about water, I'm your guy. I would love to teach you. I've made it my quest ever since that day that I felt that energy enter back into my life at a time where things were going the wrong direction. And it was only the water. And I was like, okay, I'm in, God, show me the way, right? Like, so I drank the water, and then that led me to the topic of antioxidants, because I learned that just one 12-ounce glass of this water is like eating an equivalent of 2 pounds of blueberries in the antioxidant power. I'm not going to eat 2 pounds of blueberries at that time, but it made sense that I can get it in my water, and so it was great. So that was a major difference. And then it led me to juicing, and I started opening up my mind to juicing and nutrition and the antioxidants and the phytonutrients and these things that I totally overlooked in my entire life, of how I can get more of it in. And what the result was better energy through the process. Juicing became a tool to help me clear my system, because if you're taking chemotherapy or any of that stuff and the prescription drugs that come along with it, and trust me, that shelf back there that's all those oils of natural stuff, that was prescription drugs at one time. Now it's all good stuff, right? But I
Love
was I
that.
was taking on this onslaught of prescription drugs. I was eating the way that my doctors and the nutrition team at City of Hope was guiding me, which was just the standard American diet, which, coupled with the standard American care that we give our through the medical system, it's detrimental. Like,
Mm.
this is why we're losing the battle against cancer. One, because our fuel source is processed foods in the grocery store and fast foods that are economical and we could feed a family on. But to be honest, it's just horrible for our bodies. Our body was never designed to take on this many chemicals that they're putting in our food and in our medications and in our water. Like, the reason why I was losing all that energy is because all that alkaline water that I was drinking is all chemically induced dead water, and it's just horrible for our body to try and process. So this process of living this life and fighting for my life, it just became a game of how I could feel better and what natural resources can my wife and I find to integrate into my lifestyle. I stopped looking at life as like a fad and a diet trend, and I looked at it as like this lifestyle. And I had the greatest thing is I started working on the figurative forms of cancer in my life, the lies I was telling myself, the things that I had to unlearn from family recipes and generations of these truths, I guess we can call them, of what the way that we've lived for generations now. It's all been designed, right? And it looks fun and feels good because food feels good and it's comfy and it's just something to eat and it tastes good and it's all just like fun, light conversation. But it actually is really something that drives all the results in our life. And
Mm.
so through the years, it's the more that I put into my lifestyle that was natural, it extended my remissions. It extended the time that I had to spend using Western medicine. It gave me the breaks that my body needed from taking chemotherapy. Because fortunately my body responded pretty well to chemotherapy. Not that it was easy to take on, but the tumors that I had at those times would reduce when I was doing chemotherapy. So those things that I was doing was giving me more time to implement this lifestyle. And ultimately, the lifestyle has taken control of the fight. And now I'm sitting here 6 years later after I got told 6 years ago that I'm going to die in 6 months because of this disease. And I'm stronger than ever. I'm healthier than ever. My vital signs are perfect. My organ function's fantastic. And I've been off Western medicine, and my doctor's head is spinning. And he's like, dude, whatever you're doing, just keep doing it. None of it was prescribed by him. He was telling me I should belong in chemotherapy like 7 or 8 months ago because of some situation that was happening. And we've taken control of it naturally with the use of my diet and nutrition. But then I also introduced frequency and ozone. You see a generator back here.
I
I'm
saw that.
all
I
in.
was like, love it.
Yeah, so I'm all in. I've got all kinds. So it's this lifestyle. It's the way that we were designed thousands and thousands of years ago. That design of the human body never changed. The
Hmm.
design of how we live our life, especially here in America, has changed drastically, and it's all profit driven. It's not in the context of how we can help humanity. It's how can the big man get richer. And cancer just happens to be one of the most profitable industries that the medicine world has, and it's unfortunately probably not going to change. That's what they call it, standard of care, and that's why you get scared into doing things their way. I'm just here to tell you and give you some hope that it can be combined. Like, you can actually bring this natural stuff into your world, even when taking on Western medicine, if that's part of your story. and you can earn yourself better results. If some people have enough time in this journey, I do believe that the natural ways can be a healing mechanism against this disease. It all just depends on the person. I know that there's genetic disease. My disease was not genetic. It was all environmental. So I know that there's different circumstances, and we're all built a little bit differently. And how you respond to certain things, I respond differently. I understand that. The foundation of life is the same though. Like God created an incredible, intricate body. The fact that 99% of the population doesn't even know what the endocannabinoid system blows my mind. But this endocannabinoid system is like the gateway to optimal health in our life. And if we learn how to nurture it before disease and disaster strikes, it'd be an amazing, amazing thing for humanity. But we haven't been taught about the endocannabinoid system, and that is because the best fuel of it comes from the cannabis plant. Funny how they made that illegal about 200 years ago, about the same time the big pharma rose up, but that's another topic too. But so anyway, here I am. This journey has been a wild roller coaster. It's all been God led, and I'm sitting here today trying to carry out a mission to help as many people as possible. Specifically, I plan on giving my program and products away to 1 million people that are suffering from this ugly disease that can't afford it. The financial side effects are massive to a cancer battle. So God laid a massive, massive goal on my heart to help as many people along the way. And here I am on your platform trying to help a few people along the way.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay, that such a powerful story. Like, and I love the part too that you did do Western medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that it did work for a point, right? It did, your body did respond to that. But
Mm-hmm.
that simple introduction of a friend that cared about you, sharing a product that they
Mm-hmm.
believed in. And, you know, a lot of times our friends always say, well, I don't know what to do. I feel helpless. But the fact that they were just bold enough to be like, I'm bringing this to you. Here's what
Mm-hmm.
you're going to do with it. And that was your turning point to see that it could be done different. Like I hope that everybody realizes that. Like even those of you listening who may be a caregiver, or you're just trying to be preventative, but you know loved ones in your life that do have cancer, and like, what is something that you know is so powerful that you've learned about, or somebody's blessed you with about, that you could go and be that friend that brought Gary the water that changed his whole trajectory. Like
Mm-hmm.
that I think is such a powerful point. And you know, Gary, you said just the standard of care, and I always tell people cancer doesn't happen because you're depleted of chemotherapy or you're deficient in radiation. So to think
Right.
that that's the only approach, like, but wait, I didn't need that. Like, that's not why I got cancer. So addressing the root cause. And so your point of water and
Mm-hmm.
food, and then using the systems that God gave us, like our endocannabinoid system, to actually fire and work is huge. So I want to dig into the
Mm-hmm.
water a little bit with you. So
Yeah.
tell me with, you know, and I understand alkaline water. I've gone back and forth with how much I believe people should drink, like that it shouldn't be, my understanding and research is it cannot be the only source of water that you drink throughout the
Okay.
day. Now that's my
Sure.
understanding, and this is not, alkaline water is not my expertise. So
Okay.
help me understand kind of from a simple perspective for all of us to understand, but why do you think that the alkaline water, you mentioned antioxidants, but what is
Yeah.
the power in this?
So the power in this is understanding the truth of what water is. Water is a living organism. It has a life cycle, and it is not 6 to 8 months and beyond, which is what's in our bottled water, right? The life cycle of water is 5 days. An attribute of living water is that it is alkaline. Our body thrives off of living water, living ingredients, but all living things, including the planet Earth, is 70% water. It's by design and it's pretty divine. So we need to be consuming living water. Living water is loaded with antioxidants and minerals. The reason why we're having trouble with this topic of alkaline water is because the alkaline water that we're studying and we're watching the results from is the alkaline water in the marketplace. And the alkaline water, I'm going to put the quotes around it just like I put quotes around standard of care. This alkaline water is a product. It is created in a bottling plant somewhere along this country and stored in plastic bottles that have forever chemicals in it. And when those plastics expand and contract, they're emitting these forever chemicals that are detrimental to our body. And you put enough of them in your body, you're going to find yourself in a bad situation, and ultimately, possibly, some people get lucky. So flushing your system with living water is important. Our cellular structure of our body is a certain design, and the cells are a certain size and everything. And then the molecular structure of water has actual attributes to it. So the living water has molecule clusters. All water has molecule clusters, but at a living status, these clusters have 4 to 9 molecules per cluster. Very, very small. Within 5 days, which is the life cycle of water, the molecule clusters will come together and they'll start forming larger clusters. They max out at about 35 to 45 molecules per cluster when it's done and said and done in 5 days. And then it stays that way until hopefully you have a defibrillator for that water to bring it back to life, which I have. We'll get there. But so this water that we're used to drinking, that we're calling alkaline, is dressed up dead water. So if you picture your body, your cellular body being a chain link fence, okay? And I give you a bucket of tennis balls, and I ask you to throw those tennis balls against that fence. You're not going to get any through, right? That's dead water. But if I give you a bucket of marbles, you're going to get a lot of those marbles through, and that's the living water. And now when you have living water that is truly alkaline, that doesn't change when the acidic environment hits, the acidic environment of your body interacts with it, it doesn't change. What happens is the true alkalinity of a living water will fight against that acidic environment in our body, what we call acidosis or whatever, right? It will actually fit in the cells of our body to flush it and release toxins, harsh metals, the things that are in our body. It'll remove inflammation. Like, it does a great job living in the cellular structure of our body. But we're used to drinking water that does not. So what happens when you drink a bunch of water? You feel bloated, right? You pee it all out. You feel bloated for a while, and then you pee it out. You feel bloated for a while, you pee it out. That's because it's not penetrating the cells of your body. It's dead water. Why is alkaline water not working? Because it's dead water dressed up with chemicals to create a pH. Because again, the pH of a living water is 8.5, 9.5, whatever, like that high alkalinity, right? So in order to create that high alkalinity in a water that's going to sit in a bottle for 6 to 8 to 12, maybe even beyond months, you got to use chemicals. So they're using things that, again, is soft for us to understand. It's sodium bicarbonate, magnesium bicarbonate. And you're like, yeah, but Gary, that's baking soda. But you're not drinking baking soda in abundance when you're doing with alkaline water. So no wonder that now we're seeing that the alkaline water that we're studying is the main attribute to more fatty liver in our culture. We're finding that fatty liver is transcending into liver disease and liver cancer. So doctors and mainstream is like, no, this alkaline water doesn't work. Just drink spring water or something else. Another bottled solution. When in actuality, they're just not digging deep enough. So what I have found, if a human being has a heart attack, what do the paramedics do? They bring a defibrillator, they shock you back to life. That's what needs to be done to water. So I have a system that this friend was using that now I have at my home, and I have learned all about and become a global distributor for this company. This machine is the defibrillator for water. And when you bring the water back to life and you're drinking that straight out of that fountain of youth, it's like 1 12-ounce glass it got the antioxidant equivalence of eating 2 pounds of blueberries. And I'm sitting here drinking 2 gallons of this living water a day. Are you kidding me? You think that's why I'm on fire? That's why I was able to get sustainable energy while taking on chemotherapy and radiation? Because I changed my water to the way that God intended for it to interact with our body. So now it's flushing out all the toxins. It's helping my body thrive. Hydration is key to everything, right?
Absolutely.
So that's the truth of water right there in a nutshell.
I love how you described that. And you made a point that I think is so important. 2 points, that helped my skepticism about this concept, which is number one, a lot of the studies that I've seen done had chemicals added, and they were adding baking soda, which I thought that is going to destroy the acidity of your gut, which should be very acidic, right? To break down and digest proteins and fats and carbohydrates. And the second point in conjunction was that water, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the studies that I had read was that water did interact with the gut and lower the acidity of the duodenum, which is supposed to be acidic for the purpose of digestion. Like your body shouldn't be acidic, of course, but your gut needs to be acidic. And the studies that I had understood, in my understanding, so again, this may be not a study issue, but a seasoned comprehension, was that that same, quote, bottled water you're buying from the store that says it's alkaline, perhaps because of the chemicals and the things added, was in fact lowering the acidity of your stomach, which is problematic. And you said that the water you're drinking that uses the machine, the defibrillator, which is a great example, that doesn't. The water then doesn't interact with your body in the sense of lowering the
Not in the
pH
same
of your
way.
gut. Yeah.
Right,
Okay.
because it's penetrating the cells of your body. So as I'm drinking it, like if I'm really parched, which that doesn't happen anymore because I'm drinking 2 gallons of this stuff a day, but you could feel it penetrating the cells in your neck and your chest and all this stuff. So it's not like you drink a big old 32 ounce of water and not sits on your gut. See that alkaline water that is made up of chemicals, that will go straight to your gut. It's going to slide right through the esophagus and all that stuff. It's not going to penetrate into the cells or the wall of your body and all that stuff. It's going to go down in your holding tank, and now you got a bunch of chemicals in there that are considered to fight the acidic part of us. So yeah, it is changing that. But if you drink a living water, it's going all throughout all this goodness, and it's doing what it's supposed to do. So I have found in abundance, I'm doing just fine. I'm not having
Yeah.
any gut issues. My doctors, again, they're just so pleased with all the results, from organ function to blood work to fighting cancer and keeping it under control. So we're in a good spot, and like I said, it's been an abundance of this water ever since that day. I started out, it was like a gallon a day for like 3 years, and now I've inched up, and I, like, without even thinking, I mean, this is like my shot glass for water. It's 32 ounces, and it's like that's just all day long, just going.
I love this. Okay, so we'll link in the show notes the machine he's talking about. And I
Yeah.
think, if nothing else, you guys, even this point that we are more water than anything else. And
Hmm.
hearing him share the power that this water has had, like you hear me talk all the time that your water cannot be tap water and
No.
not bottled water from the store because of the plastics and all that. So I hope that you take that away. And so, Gary, I want to know then, you mentioned the CBD, and maybe
Hmm.
this is it, maybe not. What would be the second kind of most prominent thing that you did, that you changed to help you thrive and to help you be in this place 6 years later?
Wow, great question. And there are multiple facets to this. So actually, number two in the sequence of how like things have come together is cannabis. So it was at a time, probably in that first like 4 to 6 months, where I was in real bad shape from all the prescription drugs, the chemotherapy compounding, and the bad advice I was getting around my nutrition and not changing it yet and all that stuff. I was in a position where like my gut was seized up, so constipated I couldn't poop for like weeks. Toxicity to the point of like tasting feces and like having that whole vibe just be in my existence, and it was horrible. And so you can imagine, if I'm tasting that type of thing like coming that way, like what my body felt like, my energy felt like. And so I knew that I had to make a difference, because every time I went to the doctor, it was just like, okay, well, that drug's not working, so here's another one. So, and that was just compounding the problem. So luckily, I have a great friend that I've known for going on 30 years that has been working with the cannabis plant. And I called him up and I was like, Mike, I need your help, man. I need to know what this plant could do for me because my back's against the wall. So he's like, come in, talk to me. He brought me into his shop. First thing he said was, Gary, you cannot treat this plant like a drug. Don't use it like a drug. Don't treat it like a drug. Don't think of it like a drug. Treat it like a vegetable. It's like, well, that blows my mind. Like, why? How does that work? So, because all I knew was that it was a drug and people use it to get high. So, but I knew that there was some benefit medicinally because I had heard about it. So anyway, treating it like a vegetable, he started giving me the plant. I was juicing it. I was chopping it up, putting it in my tacos, putting it on my salads, putting it in everything. He started making the oils and all this stuff. He started teaching me about this endocannabinoid, however you want to call it, that system that resides in our body. And it's like, now that makes sense. Treat it like a vegetable, nurture that system in our body. And you know what that system does? Is it's like the main driving force to empowering our immune system, empowering our neurological function, helping our body rid itself of inflammation, helping our pain receptor. Like, there's hundreds of benefits to this plant. And it was all by design thousands of years ago. This wasn't a plant that man created. This wasn't a pill that man created. This isn't a system in the body that just all of a sudden popped up last year. Like, this is a truth that has been in existence since the beginning of man and woman, right? Come on
Yeah.
now. So this whole thing just opened my mind, and I started treating the plant like a vegetable. And lo and behold, over a short period of time, relatively speaking, but probably over a few months, I eliminated 25 prescription drugs. I actually
Wow.
took control of the side effects. I got to the point where the pre-drugs that they give you for chemotherapy that they inject into your port and all that stuff that's supposed to help with the nausea and all that stuff that happens, I eliminated those. And through the years, I was needing those drugs because if I didn't have them, I was sick as a dog. To go to a point years later where I didn't need them, and I'm telling you, it had everything to do with hydration, keeping my body hydrated right, and using God's medicine to address the roots of the problem. You said it earlier. We're going to standard of care. We're going to this medical space. We need it. Look, I'm the first one to say my doctors are a major part of saving my life. The team of surgeons that opened me up for 11 hours and took organs out of my body saved my life. Chemotherapy and radiation are part of saving my life. It's part of my story.
Yeah.
But like you said, chemo and radiation aren't what create health. So we got to figure out what creates health so we can build that army of trillions of cells and build that up. And cannabis happens to be one of them. And treating it like a vegetable, then, that transcended into, well, let me look at my diet. How can I get more cannabinoids or antioxidants or phytonutrients or minerals, these things that are the fuel for cellular regeneration? Because our cells do regenerate. And during that regeneration process, if we're not doing the right things in the preventative part of our life, the healthy years, then we're going to give our bodies the opportunity to be defeated by cancer. Because we all have the cancer cells. It's just when are they going to go rogue? Right? And they usually do during that regeneration time. So in cellular regeneration, it's all about mineral loads. Like, we need to be loading our body with minerals. So juicing became huge, just like to clean my system the right way with celery juice first part of the day. It's the first thing that hits my body. Then loading my body back up with more juice and eating all the leafy greens and eating raw vegetables and fruits and learning how to cook them properly and using the right oils and the right garnishments of horseradish root and lemon peel zest. And like, those are cancer fighting little things that you look at the store, you're like, what do I need a horseradish root for? It's cancer fighting. It's like God's gift to you, and all you got to do is zest it on your foods and call me later. Like, you're gonna feel great. So it's been a daily evolution that all started with a decision to be a better version of myself today than I was yesterday. And it was just, hey, what can I do different today? What other ingredient can my wife and I find? We've scoured the earth to all these documentaries to try and figure this stuff out, and it's actually turned into a really fun process. And when you can start getting better results when results were getting worse in a fight for your life, that becomes pretty darn magical. And that's the journey that I've been on. And so I decided to share it and help other people along the way.
Oh, I just love this. And I love too that you said, all these things so far you've talked about the real water, the cannabis, the plants, the horseradish, all of this God gave us. But yet we developed this this ego to think that we could do better. And like you said, I think when it comes to emergency medicine and surgery, oh my gosh, I think we're second to none. But with
Hmm.
preventative care and nutrition, like we've lost our God loving minds, right? And so, yet, if we
Yeah.
can go back to the basics and go, like you said, cancer is an immune system problem, at least for
Hmm.
a piece, right? And so, to find
Yeah.
something like cannabis that can support that. So, I guess the question I would have, especially because I work with a lot of families that have children,
Hmm.
and this has always been the kind of the concern around every industry, right? With no matter what
Yeah.
the plant medicine is, what would you advise somebody as they step into looking for a super clean quality source of cannabis? And you
Hmm.
mentioned, like, by the way, I've never heard of juicing it and putting it in your salad. Like, that's crazy. That's so mind blowing to me.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
how can we direct people to find a good source that's clean and safe for their kids? Of course, under doctor care and all of that, but where would they start?
Me. Humbly, I would like to just say me because I've got a
Wow, awesome.
great team of experts around me that has put together a fantastic lineup of products that I've been using to share with people all across the country. Um, I have a team of people. We don't use any chemicals in any of the extraction process or any of that type of from growing from seed all the way to the final product. There's not a chemical that touches it. Super safe, super great. I again treating it like a vegetable. So I have a product that's a food topper. It's hemp derived CBDA. There was a let me digress real quick. Rick Simpson oil. We've all heard about it in the cancer
Mhm.
community, right? If you haven't heard about it, you're going to hear about it eventually because Rick Simpson oil, RSO, has been something that has been used since the early 80s. So it's been around for generations to be used in this cancer fight, right? RSO is great in theory. It's old school though. Like the way that he extracted it is the use of butane and different things. So chemicals are interacting with the plant. We don't want that. Number two is that it's high octane THC oil. Like it's going to floor you if you're not used to taking any cannabinoids into your body. So kids, like you can only get like like just a little speck into a kid's body without So there's this like ramp up period that takes forever for you to get the amount of cannabinoids that you need in your body to be efficient. So what I like to do is I like to teach people to load up in abundance with hemp-derived cannabinoids, CBDA, the raw form of CBD. It's the actual plant. I have access to a great team, like I said, and we have this cryo technology made by a company called Cryomass. They're incredible. So I have a shelf-sustainable food topper to where you could put it in your juices, in your smoothies, on your salads, in your recipes, and you sprinkle it on your food, and you can now have it throughout your day, all day long, and empower that endocannabinoid system. So I believe, Rick Simpson wants that protocol to get up to about 750 milligrams a day. I can get you there without getting you blasted with hemp derived CBDA. There is benefit to the THC part of the plant, though. I need to educate people on that. There is
Right.
truth there. There's 150 cannabinoids, however we want to call it. There's about 130 to 150 of them in the plant, right? THC and CBD are just two of them. Why are we spending all of our time fighting about what's good and what's not over here? Using them all in synergy together is the secret sauce. Treating the plant like a vegetable and getting it whole in the plant, game changer. Because now you're not decarboxylating the THC and turning it into that delta 9 that can get you all blasted. You're keeping THC in its acid form, which is where the real magic is at. And when you add THC to the other medicinal part of the plant, it gives a boosting effect to those medicinal benefits. It's an incredible plant. But I don't, and here's the thing. So if we've got people that are like, nah, I don't want that THC, I don't want to be worried about that. Cool. I could load you up without it. I could load your body up with great cannabinoids. We can get that system fed. It'll empower your immune system. You'll feel great. And lo and behold, it's going to the root of the problems and it's correcting it. It's amazing.
Wow. Okay.
So
So
I
what?
tell people all the time, I talk to people all over the country that are very weary about cannabis. Like they've been taught it's the devil's lettuce, keep it away from my family, the gateway drug. I get it. Look, people abuse it. I understand. But the fact is, God created it thousands of years ago. He gave us a system that thrives off of it. End of story. Let me teach you how to use it responsibly and provide the products that actually work. It's
Wow.
that
Okay.
simple.
What? So let me just get this straight. what don't you do? You fight cancer and thrive through a crazy diagnosis. You have a defibrillator for water to bring it to life, and you also have a solution for a giant part of our immune system. I'm like, oh, well, so
Yeah.
what's next?
Well,
This
I
is
created
awesome.
a juice business because I believe that
Oh my
juicing
God.
should be part of everybody's lifestyle. So, I built foundational pieces. I quit my career of sales and marketing 30 days prior to my diagnosis to go all in on a business venture. In fact, I have it here. It was a book and placemat series called Make Eating Fun, and it's a tool for parents and educators to teach children healthy food choices. Lo and behold, I
Wow.
wasn't doing it myself, but I developed this cool program and went all in to try and sell that. We had it in school districts, and then cancer hit me. So then I started changing my life and really leading myself in good, healthy nutrition and hydration, all this stuff. So then people really started paying attention. And that's when I started developing Higher Power Wellness. Higher Power was the hashtag to root me on. My last name is Higher. So again, God led it all. He created this for me.
So,
He's laid it out, and so I
so
found these
cool.
foundational pieces that I was doing every single day. And when I'm sitting here teaching another cancer warrior that's across the country and saying, "Hey, go out there and find burdock root, treat cannabis like a vegetable, do all these things that I'm doing," and they're like, "Huh? Where do I get all that? What do I do? You got to buy a juicer. How much do you want me to spend on that?" So I'm like, "All right, screw it. I will bottle it. I'll take care of it. I'll give you the products that you need to be the foundational pieces of a lifestyle that if you implement today, you will get better results. And in the process, I will teach you how to eat per your blood type. I will teach you about nutrition. What are the right things that you should be eating throughout the day?" And I teach people a lifestyle of abundance and giving, teach people how to live in God's design, in community, lifting each other up, leading with love and loving your body and loving yourself and giving the power to the things. Like, I don't just drink water. I believe that it's living. I know
Yeah.
that it's living, and I know that it's serving my body. I don't just consume the cannabis. I don't just consume my juices. I I receive them as a gift, and I believe that they are actual weapons against the disease, and they're actually tools to help build a stronger me. And lo and behold, it's done it.
Yeah.
And everybody that I get in the same mindset, and everybody that I could teach this lifestyle to and provide these tools for, they get better results too. We don't
Well,
win
and
them all. I mean, cancer's an ugly
right.
thing, but everybody that I've dealt with has a version of getting better results than what they're promised by their doctors. I promise you that.
And it's every day asking yourself in micro actions, every action you take, everything you put in your mouth, everything you watch on a screen, before you say a word, like there's two questions. Is this going to make me stronger or weaker? And
Hmm.
it's these thousands of micro movements and actions that we ask ourselves that every day, right? As we've learned
Right.
to thrive in life. And we fail sometimes, we don't choose the right thing, but it all does add up. And I love your point about you look at all of this with intention. And that's what we taught our son when he was going through cancer. And this is what I teach these families the same is like, teach your kids, why are they eating that? Why aren't they allowed to eat this? Why are they drinking this? And it helped
Yeah.
them understand because it gives them power. And then you said you tap into that belief and you're believing, you're sending that message throughout your whole body. Every cell is listening to your thoughts and you're sending that message that this is providing nourishment and healing to my body. I think that's
Yeah.
such an important point.
I
I
think it
love
is
that.
too. And I think that the main point that needs to be hammered home is that we have to be willing to say we were wrong. We have to be willing to
Mhm.
say, I need to unlearn a lot of things so I could relearn the real truth. We live in a culture here in America that has been progressively propagated to believe a certain way about our health. And now we're sitting here in America that has more than half of our country is clinically obese. And I'm not saying that because I'm fat shaming. I was a fat person too. I'm saying that because we are very unhealthy, and being obese opens the gateway to many chronic illness and diseases that's riddling our country.
Yeah.
So, as a population, as leaders in our own life, we have to look in the mirror and say, I'm willing to say I was wrong. I'm willing to say that grandma and grandpa and mom and dad and all the things that they taught me about food and the creamy, cheesy recipes that we've been eating all of our life, and starting our days with eggs and bacon, and all these comforting things that we call comfort, or whatever we call it, tradition. We have to break it. We have to break the cycle. Or we just end up in a country in a couple decades that's 75% obese. And cancer rates are going to be continuing to skyrocket. I talk to people, more people that look younger than you and I than look older than you and I, that are battling advanced stage cancer. Why? Why is this happening in our culture? It's not because of the advancement of medicine. Well, I think it is. It's because we've looked at the advancement of medicine as a security blanket, saying, okay, the doctor's got the answer, and if I've got high cholesterol, he'll give me a pill for that. When we should be talking about, what are you eating every day? How are you moving every day? Are you getting in the sun? Are you drinking enough water? Is the water the right water? Those have to be the conversations, but you're not going to find that where we're running to for healthcare. We need to go there for sick care or crisis care. That's where we need to go for that. They're really good at that stuff.
Yep.
But for healthcare, for trying to build a lifestyle of health and wellness, it's not going to be found in the mainstream. We got to dig deep. You got to find people like you and I. You got to find other documentaries of people that have actually done it. People that are actually out there, like, making a difference in their lives, and find out what they're doing. I just happen to be a crazy guy that said, you know what, I'm going to go change the world, and I'm not going to shut up until I do it. And I'm going to promise God that if he gives me a second chance at life, that I'm going to go give away everything he teaches me to 1 million people without them having to pay a dime. I haven't figured out exactly how I'm going to do all this yet, but I'm on my trek, and I'm not going to stop until I do it. I've built all the infrastructure. I got my nonprofit. I got my business. But we're putting pieces together, and I'm not going to stop talking about it until everybody hears it.
I am so inspired, and I appreciate, and this is exactly why I had you on the podcast, is this concept of what you just said. You are so committed to taking your struggle, your pain, your story, and offer hope to other people who are walking through similar or the same diagnosis. And that's what this world should be about. I think that's what God's called us to, right? Is to take our pain and
I think so.
Power.
I think so. I've been very blessed in my life to have an amazing network of people around me. My family's incredible. We're all so close, and I've got such a strong network of friends that really lifted me up at that dark time when I first started this journey. But none of them really knew what I was going through. None of them had ever really felt the grips of chemotherapy and what that does to you. And so another calling from God to me was to start a ministry, to be a leader for other warriors, and start a cancer warrior support group of some sort. Because I was at City of Hope, and they've got all these groups that are led by doctors and nurses. And again, it's like, okay, cool. Like, you were taught this stuff. Did you go through it? Did you really eat those things while taking on chemo? No? Okay, cool. So that's going to be skewed a little bit. So I built a cancer warrior support group. In fact, tonight, every Thursday night, via Zoom, you can come on anywhere in the country and get on via Zoom, and you can get an hour and a half with me and other warriors. We're here to support one another, listen to each other. What's going on? Is it scanxiety time again? Like, are we going through that? Okay, let's talk about it. How are we going to get through the next week? How are we going to get through this challenge? What side effect are you dealing with? And you get to share your story and be heard by other people that have been in the trenches just like you have. And you'll learn something along the way. And so it's been a great ride of just bringing all this stuff together and putting resources together, again, to share that hope, but not just hope and inspiration. I'm not like, cool, you get inspired by my story, great. I want you to learn something so you could put it to action and be empowered and believe the way that I believe. Actually empower your body through believing that this stuff is actually divine and created for a reason.
Yeah,
so that's my mission.
I always tell people, there's the saying we always say is, when you know better, you do better. But the next piece of that is, when you know better, it's an obligation to yourself, to your family, to do better. And
Absolutely.
And I think that's so important. So, okay, first I want to ask you a question, and then before we get off, of course, all of this will be linked in the show notes. Everybody listening right now is like, okay, how do I get a hold of Gary? I need to meet Gary. I need to talk to Gary. I need Gary to help me. So we are going to link all that in the show notes. And before you share some of your just channels of communication, I always like to ask my guests, just in conclusion, what is currently an inspiration for you? And whether it be a song, a book, a moment, something that's just inspiring you in the moment, or of recent.
You know, I've been on an incredible journey with my Lord and Savior. So I talk about him because I talk to him all day long. And I'm so inspired because I've dealt with a lot of trying times over the last 6 years, building a business from nothing, having $0 and still just trying to make it all work through a very difficult marketplace out there with a crashing economy. Just the communication and the way that the response is coming back, I am getting just so much love back by the love that I put out there. So I'm inspired by people reaching out, hearing my message, having some divine intervention, always leading more people to me. Like you and I just met a couple weeks ago, and we just reached out to each other, like, okay, and then all of a sudden we're here and we're doing this. Like that inspires me. It inspires me that people are hearing it, hearing what's going on, and they're taking action and wanting to get a piece of what I've got, and getting, meaning they want me to lead them, they want my products, whatever. That inspires me because I want to affect 1 million families, not just the 1,000 or so that I've done so far in the last 6 years, but 1 million. What's that going to take? And every time that times get a little difficult, God shows up in a way and leads more people to me, puts me on an opportunity to share on a podcast that will ultimately lead some more people to me. And that just inspires me like nothing before. Like I want to be that Paul Revere, like just running through the towns with a megaphone. Like I'm here, like there's a truth that I need to tell you, and just listen for a minute, I don't know.
I love
I hope
that.
that's good enough. That was off the top
Oh,
of the
that's
head.
incredible.
I'm just inspired by it.
Yeah, and clearly, like you're just so driven by this desire to serve and just share with people what they can do and take action on to live in abundance, physically, emotionally, spiritually, all of that. Like despite what has come into their life. So thank you so much. Okay, tell us, how can we get a hold of you? Of course, we'll link this for those of you driving or working out and listening.
Awesome.
We're going to link it in the show notes, but how can people find you?
The easiest place, if you're on it, is Instagram. I've got a great presence there, and I spend a lot of time in there, so I'm easily found there. And if you message me, I will get back to you. I even check the DMs of the people that don't follow me, so I'm always checking everywhere, and I'm going to get back to you. So that's an easy way to get a hold of me. It's also a great place if you go to my profile. I got a lot of great information about all this stuff and content that I've created. But also in the link in my profile is a link tree with all kinds of great resources. The link straight to my water website, so you can learn about living water. You can find it there. So Instagram's a great way, and it's at Higher Power Wellness. So if you're listening and not watching, the last name is Heyer Power Wellness. So Higher Power Wellness. That's Instagram. My website, you can go check out all my products and check out some great information there, is higherpowerwellness.com. And I have started a foundation in the process. Like I've mentioned, I've been trying to set out to support 1 million people. We're on our way. We've been doing it on the backs of the profits that we've made. So a portion of our proceeds have gone right back into the cancer community over the last several years. We've supported people, but I wanted to start a nonprofit organization. So the Higher Power Foundation is alive. It's at higherpowerfoundation.org. You can go on there, you can be supported, you can be on there and find some good information. I'm building it. It's not quite as robust as I want yet, but the wheels are in motion. But if you want to support another warrior, if you want to support our mission in helping other warriors on the front lines, and this is a great way to do it. So the higherpowerfoundation.org is a great spot. So those 3 areas are where you can find me easiest.
This is so great. Gary, you're such a gift, and I'm so thankful that I had you on. I feel like there's future collaborations in store. I just keep having all of these ideas. So thank you.
I
I
love
know
that.
so many people have been filled with hope today and specific practical tools that they can lead with. So thank you. I appreciate having you on.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on. It's been a great time. Thank you for sharing my story.